Good evening. How y'all doing today? Today we're going to go over victim mentality. It goes hand in hand with self-sabotage. Okay. I've got quite a bit to read today, so I'm going to read it all now and then elaborate a little bit. Okay. And again, some of this is going to overlap with two different resources today. Okay. First three paragraphs each have links to different things. Okay. Victim mentality, also known as victim complex, is a persistent psychological mindset where individuals perceive themselves as powerless and consistently wronged by others or their circumstances. Even when evidence suggests otherwise, it is characterized by a refusal to take personal responsibility, a tendency to blame external factors for all misfortunes, and a belief that one is uniquely persecuted or unlucky. Why did I do that? Anyway, I should probably just copy and paste and edit so I can read it without sounding stupid. This mindset often develops as a learned defense mechanism stemming from past trauma, emotional neglect, or abusive environments where the individual feels they lack control over their life. Key traits include chronic helplessness, resentment, defensiveness towards constructive criticism, and a focus on grievance rather than solutions. It is distinct from genuine suffering. While victims of real abuse may initially feel powerless, a victim mentality involves adopting this state as a permanent identity to avoid accountability or to gain sympathy. Okay. In relationships and social interaction, this mindset can be draining and destructive. Individuals may reject help or sabotage positive changes, creating a dynamic where partners or friends feel compelled to rescue them, leading to codependency or conflict. Breaking free from this pattern typically requires recognizing the external locus of control, accepting personal agency, and engaging in therapeutic techniques such as cognitive behavioral therapy or forgiveness practices. Cognitive behavioral therapy is dad. Okay? Cognitive, the brain. Behavioral, external behavior. Therapy. Okay? To help you understand the behavior and your behavior and others, and help you deal with that through the therapy of talking through it. Okay? So I was sending messages back and forth to Noah today, and my voice went fucking hoarse on me again. For anybody else watching, if you're sending messages back and forth on audio messages, 20 minutes is your max. It's actually a really good conversation. You get to hear the person's voice, and you just wait for somebody to listen to it. You can reference what they already said. And it's a great conversation because you can recall it all. And I was busy, he was busy. And we sent each other a 20-minute message and carried on with the day and came back and responded to it, blah, blah. It was a great conversation. It really was. So if anybody's interested in contacting their kids in different ways of communication, a text message, but an audio clip. I think he has an Android, I've got an iPhone. It lets me record up to 20 minutes. Stop it like a hair before, send it. It goes straight through, okay? So anyway, let's continue on with this. Victim mentality, also known as victim complex or victim syndrome, is a psychological mindset where an individual perceives themselves as a perpetual victim of external forces, blaming others for their misfortunes even when evidence suggests otherwise. It is not recognized medical diagnosis in the DSM-5, but is described as an acquired personality trait or a learned coping mechanism, often stemming from past trauma, abuse, or neglect. Key characteristics include avoiding personal responsibility, pervasive helplessness, and rumination on negative events. This mindset is closely linked to learned helplessness, a concept identified by psychologist Martin Seligman. I see that name often in the books. I can never say his name. It's Martin, and then last name Seligman. Seligman, whatever. Anyway, there's a lot of information by this guy about this whole topic and abuse and neglect and all that stuff. Where was I? Where repeated exposure to uncontrollable stressors leads individuals to believe they lack agency. People with this mentality often exhibit external locus of control, believing outcomes are determined by forces outside their influence, which can result in decreased well-being, poor social connections, and self-sabotage. Core causes and origins. Victim mentality typically stems from a combination of early life experiences, cognitive distortions, and psychological reinforcement. The primary root cause is often a betrayal of trust or exposure to uncontrollable stressors during crucial developmental periods. Okay, that one is crucial. Okay, so that's right there telling you that root cause is early life experiences. Okay, cognitive distortions. Okay, cognitive distortions is the word distorted. Your memory's skewed, distorted, not actually what happened, slightly different from what actually happened. Okay. And psychological reinforcement is it happening over and over again. So you start to believe it. Okay. Childhood trauma. The mindset frequently originates in childhood. Jesus, Jimmy, come on, read that shit. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, the mindset frequently originates in. Don't be afraid to fuck up on camera. Okay. You notice how I never edit shit out. The mindset frequently originates in childhood environments characterized by emotional neglect, abuse, or inconsistent caregiving. Okay, children in these settings internalize beliefs that they are powerless and that the world is unsafe. When primary caregivers are abusive or dismissive, a child may develop a deficient script. I don't know why I put whatever. Believing that I am bad and I cannot change my circumstances. There's plenty more examples of that you can think of. This early conditioning creates a foundation for learned helplessness, where the individual stops attempting to influence outcomes because past efforts have consistently failed. So Basically, again, repeated things happening to reinforce the fact that they're helpless. Okay. Say, for instance, an abusive situation, it keeps happening over and over and over and over again, and the kid can't get it stopped. There's no way to fucking stop it, and no one asks for help. Okay. And then getting out of that situation, and then other types of situations happening, and they fail. Okay. So there has to be a trauma, and then there has to be consistent reinforcement of failure after that. Okay. Cognitive mechanisms. 2 specific cognitive biases reinforce this mentality. Attribution bias. Individuals attribute negative events to external, permanent, and pervasive causes. The teacher hates me. That's an example. While denying personal responsibility. Conversely, passive positive events are often dismissed as luck or flukes. Confirmation bias. The brain actively seeks evidence that supports the belief of being victimized while ignoring data that suggests agency or fairness. This creates a self-fulfilling prophecy where the individual only sees threats and injustices. My tongue's not working today. I was talking 20 minutes at a time. My voice is just bad today. Give me a second. Okay. Victim mentality versus PTSD. It is crucial to distinguish between a victim mentality and the valid psychological response to trauma, such as post-traumatic stress disorder or complex PTSD. PTSD or CPTSD. These are clinical diagnoses resulting from exposure to actual life-threatening events or prolonged abuse. Symptoms like hypervigilance, flashbacks, and emotional dysregulation are neurobiological responses to trauma, not character flaws. Individuals with CPTSD may exhibit learned helplessness as a survival mechanism, but this is a symptom of injury, not a chosen mindset. Victim mentality. This is a personality trait or cognitive pattern where an individual perceives themselves as a victim even in the absence of immediate threat or evidence. While it can co-occur with PTSD, it is characterized by a chronic refusal to accept agency and a tendency to use past trauma to justify current inaction or manipulation. Critics argue that labeling trauma survivors as having a victim mentality can be a form of gaslighting individually, invalidating their genuine suffering. I'm sorry, my voice is just bad. However, psychologists note that while the trauma is real, the persistent belief that one has no power to change their current life, even when safe, is the specific maladaptive pattern referred to as victim mentality. Here, the mentality manifests through specific behavioral and emotional patterns that erode well-being in relationships. Individuals often exhibit pervasive possessivism, using absolute terms like always and never. They frequently ruminate on past wrongs, retelling the same negative stories to solicit validation or sympathy. Socially, this leads to isolation or toxic bonding with other complainers. They often lack empathy for others, struggling. I'm struggling. I can't read with this shit today. My voice is fucking hurting. So they often lack empathy for other struggles, viewing their own pain as unique and superior moral superiority. In relationships, this can create a dynamic with savior types where the individual refuses to help to prove they cannot be saved, driving partners away. Overcoming this mindset requires shifting from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control. Since it is a learned behavior, it can be unlearned through deliberate practice and often professional support. Okay. Radical self-awareness and responsibility. The first step in recognizing the pattern, individuals must catch themselves using absolute language, I can't, they always, and challenge these thoughts. Taking radical responsibility means acknowledging that while past trauma was not their fault, their current recovery and reactions are their responsibility. This does not mean blaming oneself for the trauma, but empowering oneself to choose the response. Okay. So that also means you choose to respond. You choose to respond the way you do. Okay. Cognitive reframing. Therapeutic techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy can identify and dispute distorted thoughts. Instead of viewing oneself as a victim of circumstance, the goal is to reframe the narrative to that of a survivor who has agency. Involves actively looking for evidence of personal efficiency, small wins where action did not or did produce a good result. Emotional regulation and empathy. Developing skills to manage negative emotions without resorting to blame is critical. What? Developing skills to manage negative emotions without resorting. That's not supposed to say resorting. Fucking typo. Resorting, not resorting. Resort. That's what it says. Resort. Like, I'm going to sort these out. I'm going to resort it. That's what that says. Without resorting to blame is crucial. Practicing empathy allows individuals to see situations from others' perspectives, reducing the belief that everyone is out to get them, breaking the cycle of rumination by refusing to graduate, and future goals can also disrupt the neutral pathways associated with helplessness. professional support because the roots are often deep-seated in trauma. Working with a trauma-informed therapist is highly recommended. They can help process the origin wounds that create the helplessness, distinguishing between valid grief and maladapted patterns, and providing a safe space to practice new ways of interacting with the world. Okay, that was a mouthful. I'm sitting at 20 minutes now. My fucking mouth, my throat hurts. Crazy. So I wanted to pull that up today because it's a part of the healing process of any type of trauma, whether it be emotional, psychological, physical, sexual trauma. Okay. Even the worst, the sexual assault victims. Okay. Some of them heal and become empowered, but a lot don't heal and become a victim of victim mentality. Okay. And that also comes out during other psychological issues because of the assault. Okay. It's a mixed up bag of emotions. Okay. Victim mentality will also come out when people aren't educated, don't have skills, they try to go out and do something, and they think they're hot shit, and they just keep failing. Okay. Now I'm going to say this, and you can look it up for yourself. You got a phone in your hand. You're watching me on your phone. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. Or say it more elaborately, repeating the same process in the same exact fashion, expecting a different result. Okay. If you were to do that in science, in a lab, or in an office, while somebody's laying down there on a couch, drinking the head, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Okay. When you go to follow through with anything, okay, you have to have the mindset that I can do this. Does that make sense? Okay. You have to go into the mindset that I know how to do this because I have the skills, I've practiced to have the experience. Okay. So, going in it with the positive mindset and the confidence with the skills and knowledge and experience will prevent failure. Okay. So, with that said, proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. Okay. Apply that to fucking everything. Educate yourself on mental health issues and the issues that you may have. Seek mental health counseling. Don't be afraid of it. Okay? Nobody's gonna know. Only you. Okay? It's not like you're walking around with a fucking dunce hat saying, I'm going to the shrink today. See ya. No. No. There's nothing wrong with finding somebody to bounce your thoughts off of. Because my kids are doing it. Okay? I'm not their therapist. I'm dad. Dad is a therapist. Okay? Dad as dad is a therapist to their kids at all times, regardless if he has the education for it or not. Okay? So, me, this dad, I am a psychotherapist. Okay? And I'm helping my kids. My kids rely and think highly of what I think of. Obviously. Because if they didn't think highly of what I thought in my education, they wouldn't be coming back asking me questions and help me sort out the next steps in life. Okay? At one point, both of them had a negative mentality. Since their interaction with me, both Allie and Noah have both lit up in personality. Okay? Their lives are getting better. Both of them are getting healthier. Both of them are succeeding in being on their own or being in jobs and shit like that. I'm coming, puppy. They once had a victim mentality, but since they had interaction with Dad, their therapy has healed them. Okay? So, for all the dads out there, your kids may be suffering from a type of level of victim mentality. Okay? Or you, or your spouse, or somebody. It's all here for you to read, rewind my video and play it back. I know my reading sucks, but do this. In any search bar, in any Google or whatever the fuck you want to call it, okay? Type in keywords victim mentality psychology and reference DSM-5. That's the psychology book I use every day. And there's a couple of different AIs out there specifically for psychology. Just pick one. 27 minutes. Okay. We'll wrap it up here. So, I wanted to put this one out there because you can catch these behavioral traits in many other types of mental health issues. Okay. It's often used as a narcissist tool in their tool bag of manipulation. Okay. The woe is me, I need help, fucking save me, blah, blah. I'm not saving you again, Amanda. I'm not going to do it. I'll save the kids. I'm going to leave your ass there with him. That's case of emergency. As you can tell by my tone of voice, I fell for that once. Not going to happen again. So you got to use your discernment when dealing with women. Okay. You can't just say you can't trust the women, you can't trust all of them. You got to say you can't trust certain ones. Okay. And those certain ones are typically woe is me, playing victim. Okay. Like it said in the beginning, there is a distinct difference between the actual victim and victim mentality. Okay? So don't brush every woman off as playing victim as for attention. But don't blow them off completely because it probably is trauma. Okay? And Degrading, denying, invalidating anyone's trauma in itself is a form of abuse that traumatizes them further. Okay. Denying that the trauma just happened to them is a form of abuse. For example, somebody came up to me and said, so-and-so just did this to me. I look up square and I'm like, no, he didn't. I watched the whole thing, no, he didn't. That's psychological narcissistic abuse. To deny and discredit, okay? And I personally would never do that shit. I think this will help a couple of my kids out there. All three mamas have done this to me. And women that try to date me, that they're only out for money. They're only out for money. They'll play this, okay? Now, you do have to use your discernment and pay attention. If you first go on a date and she's already complaining, woe is me, get out of my truck. Bye. Or 6 months from the first date, you're on a date and something bad happens. Okay? The bad thing that happens makes her a victim of something, like physically. Okay? You cannot deny that. Is she asking for your help? Don't deny the victim. Okay? So anyway, just want to put that all out there. I got another one working. I got to review this one. I'll see y'all later. Bye.